When people talk about the Middle Ages, they usually think of things like plague, mud, and someone shouting, "Bring out your dead."
Bring out your dead!
It's led to the popular belief that nothing useful happened for about 1,000 years, which is awkward because Britain invented a lot of things in that time frame that we still use in our modern world today. Not technology you can hold, but technology you live inside. Things like law, government, education, timekeeping, and civic organization. The Middle Ages weren't a dark age, they were more like an administrative age. And Britain is very good at administration.
Make it count.
In June 1215, in Runnymede, a group of English barons forced King John to sign what became known as the Magna Carta. Now, this document did not create democracy. This document did not even really create equality. It barely even created peace. But what it did create was something far more dangerous: limits. For the first time in Western Europe, a king formally acknowledged in writing that his power was not absolute. Clauses in the Magna Carta established that the king was subject to law, that punishment required due process, and that taxation required consultation. Most of the documents were about feudal rights, land, money, but the principle itself was revolutionary. Power could be restrained by paperwork. By the 17th century, the Magna Carta had influenced the English Civil War and the concept of a constitutional monarchy. Then, by the 18th century, the American colonial legal thinking was influenced by it, and even the US Constitution and the Bill of Rights, which is why medieval Britain is still quietly presented in courtrooms, even in courtrooms with gun detectors. After limiting power, medieval Britain did something even more unsettling. It decided that law should be consistent. Before the 12th century, justice varied wildly to local customs, local rulers, and local moods. Two identical crimes could have completely different outcomes depending on where you were. Under King Henry II, between 1154 and 1189, England developed what was known as common law. Instead of reinventing justice every time, judges had to travel the country, record decisions, and applied a previous ruling to new cases. This introduced precedent, and that really matters. Law became predictable, portable, and irritatingly detailed. This system expanded across England, then Britain, and later into the United States, Australia, Canada, and much of the Commonwealth. If your legal system relies on case law, chances are you're using British medieval logic, which explains why sometimes legal arguments sound like, yes, but in 1327, something similar happened. That's not a flaw, that's design.
Well, I am king. Oh, king, very nice.
Medieval Britain also invented the idea that rulers should consult, not obey, not just listen, not just agree, but actually consult. The English Parliament idea gradually came between the 13th and the 14th centuries, beginning of councils of nobles, clergy, and they were the ones advising the monarchs. By 1295, the model of Parliament under Edward I included nobles, clergy, and representation from towns. This established the principle of representation. Parliament's original purpose was practical. It approved taxes, managed disputes, and prevented rebellion. Over time, it gradually became two institutions, with a structure of two houses, formal debate, and recorded proceedings. And this became a template for legislators worldwide. These systems weren't designed for speed. They were designed to prevent one person from doing anything rash, which is why modern democracy can feel very slow, administrative, and argumentative at times, and endlessly procedural. That's not dysfunction, that's medieval engineering. Medieval Britain also invented the modern university. Before universities, education was informal, religious, and inconsistent. Not too dissimilar to America, I guess. Well, knowledge was passed down through apprenticeships or monasteries with no standard curriculum. Oof, a lot like America. Anyway, the University of Oxford showed up in about 1096, making it the oldest university in the English speaking world. And then around 1209, Cambridge begins to show. These institutions formalized degrees, disciplines, examinations, and academic hierarchy. Knowledge became structured, formal, examinable, certifiable. This allowed law to be taught consistently, medicine to become systematic, philosophy to be preserved and argued. Modern education systems, including degrees, academic titles, and graduation ceremonies, still follow this medieval British model today, which is why now people wear robes, little sashes, and receive a piece of paper that tells them how much debt they now have. Medieval Britain also helped standardize time. Mechanical clocks appeared in England by the late 1200s and installed at churches and in middle of town centers. For the first time, time was measurable, public, and enforceable. This allowed for work schedules, market hours, and legal deadlines. Without mechanical timekeeping, modern life would be flexible, romantic, and completely unworkable. Medieval Britain also issued town charters, granting settlements self governance, marketing rights, and legal authority. This credited local councils, regulated markets, and infrastructure responsibility. It gave the idea that towns could manage themselves and that roads belonged to someone, and rules applied within certain boundaries of those towns. Basically, it's the medieval way of thinking of no, you can't park that cart here. Medieval Britain didn't just invent little gadgets, it invented rules that govern. It invented courts that regulate those rules, and education that explains why those other things are in place, and a government that loves arguing about them. Without medieval Britain, modern life would be chaotic. It would be lawless. The medieval ages were not the dark ages. They were more like the planning committee for what we live with today. In the next episode, we're going to look at what happens when Britain takes all of these items that they've invented, laws, systems, organizations, and apply it during war times when there's really no time to be polite. So if you're enjoying these top 5 invention videos, let me know in the comments below. You have given me a lot of great ideas, inventions to go over and cover because there is endless amounts, so I'm trying to do these in digestible short video form. Then I'll make a playlist of all of them together. But let me know in the comments below your favorite medieval invention. I also notable mention that I didn't get here, Jethro Tull. Who doesn't love the band and the plow, right? But like and subscribe. Thank you so much. Do that little hype thing if you see it, and I'll see you in the next one.